And so we're gonna try to do that. Like I think each little episode, like try to highlight someone. So it's recording now, Brianna. I'm gonna let you just talk a little bit about Citizen Hive. Do your elevator pitch.
Okie dokie. So over 40% of seniors that go into our nursing homes experience depression due to feelings of being misunderstood, neglect, and isolation. Now, Citizens Hive is an app that is going to connect senior caregivers and senior citizens who are in need. It'll allow caregivers to bring seniors home and give them that home environment that will provide personalized and compassionate care that the seniors need in order to thrive.
All right, good job, Brianna. Brianna's part of our current cohort right now. I told her I was gonna give her a shout out, but we've been working on all these with the cohort. So thanks, Brianna.
Anytime.
Joanna, thanks for coming. I think the one thing is actually, you're our first woman speaker. We're like, what we always try to do is with Focus in general, we really want to help women founders, women mentors. We kind of want to help that part out. Joanna's been mentoring thousands of our founders, and she's been the one that in some ways kept us as focused, very focused, if you want to call that. She does all of our meetings and our operations, and the one thing I love about Joanna is that she's very humble about it. And so she's going to do kind of like you say, like a series a little bit on managing virtual teams. She's worked at a number of places, from the biotech startups to Rockstar Games. So you have like a variety of experience but I'll let you talk a little bit about your experience first. And
that was pretty good.
Was that good? Was that
made me sound great.
That sound good?
I just let him talk for me all the time. Okay, so I'm Joanna. I'm one of the co-founders of Focus. But I have a lot of years of project management experience, and that has turned out to be really useful in this startup environment. So I wanted to just share with you today a little bit about how we structure our weekly team meetings, using our actual meeting slides, and talk to you a little bit about how I prepare that deck, why we include the things in it that are in there, and then we'll just walk through the deck and then see if you have any questions. And then afterwards, I think Carly said we could make a template deck available for folks if that's useful for you.
And Stephen, want to add anything else to? I guess the one thing we add is that if you have any questions, it'd be really good to do on Zoom chat. I have some questions from a startup that asked me before the thing, but Zoom chat works out really good. I think that's the key thing. But we'll have a nice little Q&A system. But I think it's just pretty good. We have Kristen on. We have other cohorts on that are actually going to be having teams that are virtual. So I think this works out good.
That's great.
What we're going to do is I'll share out the screen, and then we'll move out.
So while he's doing that, I'll just talk to you a little bit about the preparation work that goes into preparing the deck. So what we recommend is that you do a weekly meeting at minimum. And you really need this construct once you get past 3 people. If you're just 2 or 3 people, you can probably get away with not doing it weekly, but once you get past 3 people, including your interns, count every single person who's participating in your startup or even your project, you really want to have some sort of mechanism to make sure everybody's on the same page all the time. So
usually we had a set date you were doing it on, right?
Yeah, so we found that the best time, since some of us were still working and some of us were working full-time at the startup, what we found was that Monday nights at 7 p.m. and some folks were students, so Monday nights at 7 p.m. worked out to be the best time for our team. And we did that meeting unless Monday was a holiday.
Yeah.
We did that meeting every week. And even on weeks that were a holiday, we still did an update and sent it out. We just we didn't have a meeting. We gave everybody a day off that day. But I think keeping that cadence, we've been doing it since the inception. So we've been doing it for quite a few years now, and it works really well. Everybody has gotten really used to it. So a couple things about preparing the slides. And what I found was that it's a lot easier to have a meeting when it's focused with some slides and some preparation about the content ahead of time, rather than trying to just have a casual conversation with a bunch of people on camera and it's not focused and there's not a facilitator. So I actually act as the facilitator during the meetings, but I don't speak during the entire meeting. They're different. Everybody has a part to give an update, and then and we've experimented a little bit with the sort of a water cooler talk component of the meeting. And we decided that the best way to do that is to do it at the end of the meeting. At first we were doing it at the beginning of the meeting, but it would make the meeting go long sometimes. And if people had a very limited amount of time and needed to drop off right away, then we found it was better to stick the water cooler talk at the end.
That's nice. That's good. Good memory.
But I think the water cooler talk is as important as the meeting content because it's everybody kind of sharing.
Yeah.
All right. So preparing the slides. I use PowerPoint because it's comfortable for me. If you have access to PowerPoint, it has some really cool features. Like the latest version has this design feature. So if you just put a bunch of pictures on the slide, it'll actually organize the content for you and make it beautiful. So I really like that feature. But you totally can use Keynote, or you can use, I think the Google version is just called Slides. So, and those have some nice benefits, especially the Google one, because you can share out a link rather than sharing a file. So what I do is I have a template that I use that has the same set of updates every single week. And before I start actually populating the very first one, I brand it. So you'll see that these are actually screenshots from our website. They may not be from our current website. I picked a deck from last year so that I wouldn't be sharing anything sensitive. But what I do is I actually just go and grab screenshots from our website and I convert them into graphics so that our slide deck looks branded. And then right before the meeting, I send out a PDF version and a native file version of the slides. That way, if somebody wants some content that's on the slides, like our media team really loves that the slides have pictures and captions and everything on them, and they can just crop them and immediately use them as social media content. So that's sort of like you get double bang for your buck by doing that. And then it also allows anybody who doesn't have that particular file, or if something happens weird in the file conversion, like we just did it right now. We loaded the PowerPoint file on the MacBook and the S in focus was on the second line. So anyway, so it gives people a nice clean copy if they have the PDF version. And then we use Basecamp, and after the meeting, I post a recording of the meeting and the slides and any assets that I use to create the slides in our Basecamp folder. So everybody has access to that content immediately, and nobody has to follow up with me or check with me. It's all just available.
And that's helpful.
Yeah. So before the meeting, send out the decks, and then after the meeting, I usually do it within 24 hours. I post the slides and the recording. So that's sort of the work that happens ahead of time.
How long does that take you to prepare?
So once you get used to it, you actually can do the slides in about an hour. But it's an hour well spent. And then on once a month, I do a bigger update where I also report on our key performance indicators. And I think we're going to do a separate talk specifically about how do you figure out what they are and how do you track them and how do you report on them. But I think, so I included a deck that has those in here so you can see them, but I think we'll do a separate talk just about key performance indicators. Okay, so any questions?
I don't have any questions so far. Yeah, I think that's good.
I'll jump into the structure of the actual deck.
Sure. It's kind of like a little billboard slide, right?
Yeah. So we always include a billboard slide. It sort of reminds people where they are and what we're talking about. Go ahead. And then I have a section called Weekly Highlights. And this includes any meetings that we went to. Curling is great about snapping photos on his phone, and he posts them to a channel on Slack that he can do directly from his phone. You can also post them on Basecamp, but it's a little harder to do. So I found that file to me on Slack, and I just grab it and immediately make a file out of it, or a slide out of it. The other thing we include in the weekly highlights are any news that we've gotten from, in particular, Focus, because we support startups. We're really interested in the people that we're helping. So anything about your customers, right? So for us, that would be our startup. So if a startup gets funding, or if a startup has a key new hire, or if a startup just did a check-in and had some interesting news, or has a new website, like I tend to actually share that out to our team so that everybody remembers the mission as well as sort of the day-to-day work that we're doing. And then I also include, if somebody went on vacation or a really fun trip, or presented at some event on our behalf, then I include slides about that as well. So we love to see people's family photos, birthday parties, you know, trips. Stephen took a really fun trip to, where did he go? Thailand or something like that. And so that was really fun to share. So that's kind of what is in weekly highlights. So let's look through and see what this one had. This is a 2-week deck where we had missed a week, and so I did 2 weeks together. So you can choose whether 1 week or 2 weeks is a good cadence for your team. So we discovered this tool called Segment and had a really productive meeting with them. So I had Curling talk about that. And then we'd actually mapped out our outsourcing diagram, and so we were really excited about it. This was the first time we revealed this graphic to our team. So it's sort of like a marketing piece. And then we have a series of meetings that we have during the week. So there's a dev team meeting, there's a strategy team meeting that includes the business development and sales folks. There's a marketing meeting, and there's a media meeting. And so I tend to include any interesting pictures or details from their meetings in this deck as well. And you can see here we visited the San Diego Airport Innovation Lab and snapped some photos of their really cool space. It's at the old commuter terminal. And here you can see Cal State San Marcos. That's the dean and the Jim and head of the mentoring program, Jill. And we've had some, we'd attended a machine learning Amazon Web Services workshop. So you can see that it's just like the slide doesn't have a lot of content on it. It just is like a really quick update. And then I let whoever was sort of taking the lead on that activity speak to the slide. How are we doing on time?
I think we're good. I do like the fact that you said you allow other people from the team to speak.
I think that's really important. Yeah. I'm not doing it right now, though.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I wanted to act offhand and you to go through the template.
That's good.
Yeah.
Then we were, one of the things that we really believe in is transparency. So we really try to share any key meetings that we're having, and not sensitive information, but just try to keep everybody understanding that there's activities happening outside of the work that they're individually doing. So we participated in Y Combinator's startup school, and we had to submit weekly updates to Y Combinator. And so this is a slide that shows, the update we sent to Y Combinator, we also shared back to our team. And then here was a meeting with San Diego Workforce Partnership. I try to include a picture of any key stakeholder that we're meeting with. We love USC, so here's a USC Viterbi.
I think Stephen recognizes these pictures.
Yeah. So Stephen graduated, finished his master's at USC Viterbi, and that's how we met. And then we were at Ivy and Young. This is also at USC. We had a person from our very early cohort who actually works there and has a couple of startups. Yeah. So we always try to check in with her, and she always has really interesting updates. Here's Blackstone Launchpad at USC. This is a program that supports a lot of startups there. So that must have been curling today in LA. Here's another Y Combinator update from the second week. Then I have a slide called, so that's it for weekly highlights. And I know I spent a lot of time on that, but actually in the meetings, we spend most of the time on that, just talking about what did we accomplish this week? What are we excited about? What are the things that are going to lead into something exciting? And then sort of what's been going on with the team.
And is there a reason why you've been doing it, we do it weekly? Because you're having like this kind of spotlight of these weekly events versus monthly or.
No, I think there would be too much content. It would just be overwhelming to do it. And I think touching base like once a month is not really that much if you want. Think about like how, especially for those of you that have tech startups, if you're running in 1 week or 2 week sprints, think about your whole business in terms of sprints. I think that's a really helpful way to think about things. Like, what are we going to accomplish in the next 1 or 2 weeks, rather than what are we going to accomplish in the next month? A month is a pretty abstract concept, and you get people giving you really intangible things that are not broken down enough to actually see progress. So we have this, so anyway, after the highlights, we have admin stuff, and I try to keep it a little informal because that's our culture. this particular week we didn't have any, but I would have things on here like, I'm still waiting for something from somebody, or Curling needs to do an update on the website, or we need to pick a date that's going to work for some in-person thing that we're trying to schedule. So it's just administrative things. Since we have all the stakeholders together, then it's a perfect time to just knock out anything that's on my to-do list. Then we go into looking ahead, where I talk about just the next week. And this is really cool because this is where I check in with everybody, what's going on this week. And we make sure we don't have conflicts and make sure nothing's missing from the list of what everybody's supposed to be. These are like places that we're going to present, key meetings that we're going to have, including our internal meetings and our customer meetings. And then I use this slide the following week when I build the highlights. So this is my checklist for what I should have pictures of when I do next week's meeting.
That's great. That's a pro tip, as they say.
That's a pro tip. And then anything that isn't coming up in the next week, but is for sure on our to-do list, this goes on this other upcoming events. So this would be training that's coming up, or conferences that we're going to, key meetings, applications that are due. So we keep these on our radar, and then I use this list to populate the list that I just showed you. So then next week I'll see like, oh, are any of these this week? They go right onto that list. Then we have our key initiatives. I think once a quarter we've been doing this strategic planning. It's like 3 to 6 months, depending on what's going on in our organization, where we identify key initiatives. So we had identified some key things that we wanted to accomplish, as goals for 2019. And then we did an update every week on how all the items were going. You can see that, like, what section of our business was it based on? That's where it says focus. The lead is the main person that's driving that initiative, what the initiative is, and then what the latest update is.
We'll take a little pause here. I know I remind everybody if they want to post some questions on the Zoom chat. That'd be great. We're okay. We actually feel like it's good to do that. But you know what? I have a feeling we had a shout out from Kristen, said that you're awesome.
Thanks, Kristen.
that was good. Also, we had Kristen. Was yours a question about the fact that the content gets old after 1 week and it's easy to forget the items?
That's true.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I find I'm currently working from home, and I actually have daily meetings with a small team, but when I was, for my developers, when I was, working with a development team remotely, anything after 1 week, it was like 3 years old. I mean,
right. That's true.
Forget, it's not hot anymore. And so I think your minimum 1 week is spot on.
You absolutely can do it more often. This particular meeting is everybody. So we have sales, marketing, development.
Yeah.
Some of the other teams, they meet more frequently. I think we had our dev team meeting twice a week for a while. Sometimes we meet daily if we're really working on something, that has a near deadline or a lot of activity. But for really having the entire organization, even the interns, and sometimes we have people that used to work for the company that are just curious, or that are taking a break. They drop in. They know that the Monday meeting is a place that they can come say hi to everybody. Antoine's in France now.
Yeah.
It's a little different time zone, but if he's awake at the right hour, he pops in.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's cool.
Yeah, thanks, Kristen. That's real talk. I like that.
That's good. That's really important.
You got it.
Okay, so we'll go past the initiatives. I think there's 2 slides on that. Oh, and then the top 3 last. I don't even remember what that title means. I didn't know that slide.
I remember it had the goals on there, and it had the date, and it had the lead and stuff like that. You had that one.
I might have been trying to pick like what are the top 3.
Yeah, you want to try what top 3 we can work on?
Yeah, but for some reason there's way more than 3 on that slide. So obviously my slides are not perfect, and I think that is totally okay. Sometimes the team points it out. Sometimes they give me praise. Sometimes nobody notices except me. One of the things that I do when I present is I present it actually in PowerPoint, and if something's wrong, a date or some other information, I actually correct the slides live during the meeting.
Yeah.
And then when I post them to Slack after the meeting or to Basecamp, then they have the correct information in them. So there's sort of like the pre-meeting version and the post-meeting version. The post-meeting version is better. Then we have so then we go into our department updates. So, and I won't drag you through all the slides, but like this is our sales and strategy dashboard. So we have a weekly meeting with the sales and strategy team, and then I share back the notes from that meeting to the main meeting. And it's not super detailed. You can see this was 2 weeks of meetings. And then I show like the key sales pipeline. And I just show, this is a screenshot from HubSpot. So it's not like a cumbersome thing to update. It's just a screenshot that shows like what our next opportunities are and sort of what's going on. So I think I do that like two pages of them, even though there's tons and tons more in there. This is the media team. And the media team actually, since I don't participate in that meeting, they actually send me their slides. They send me their own updates, and then I just incorporate them in our deck. And we have our dev update all the way at the end of the deck. For us, you could put it along with these other updates because right after our team meeting, we go right into a dev meeting. Then we have metrics. I only do the metrics on a monthly basis. I don't do them every single week. But you can see, you know, our growth numbers. You can see I blurred our revenue.
Yeah.
But this is actually a report that comes out of Dubsado. And this is a spreadsheet that I use to track our social media activity. I did not blur these numbers, even though they're not good, because what happened is that a key marketing person left. And I was showing like you can see the numbers going down when like suddenly we stopped our marketing efforts. You could see like our complete drop off. And so we use this as a way to learn like what are the levers that we can switch on or off in order to engage folks on social media. So I think we learned that like if you put a lot of content out and what type of content, you know, we get good engagement, and then the minute you stop, like obviously you lose your audience. And then this is a cool dashboard that Marissa told us about, that it's linkedin.com/sales/SSI, I think, where you can see this report. I don't know any other way to get to it, but it's kind of a cool engagement if you're doing a lot of activity on LinkedIn. They'll tell you like, what's your influence among people in your field? So they say like, of all the people that are doing kind of what you're doing, how influential are you? And this affects the ranking of your posts and your content. And then I just have a little slide at the end, and this is where we do our water cooler talk. And you can see I have our dev slides right afterwards. And our dev slides are pretty straightforward too. It's just like a little agenda, and then just anything that we happen to be talking about. And then I always keep, just for reference at the end of the dev meeting, like, what's our current schedule? What are our milestones? Like, what's going on with the sprints? And then like the workflow that we're working on.
And that could be part of the next part of the talks, a little bit about Jira and stuff like that.
Totally talk about that. So.
But I love the fact that you showing everybody the overview. Yeah. And this is like real talk. This is what we actually use.
What we actually do.
So I think that's important. All right, this is a good time. You know, I had some questions from previous groups, but also you guys do a little shout out if you guys have one, or you guys put it on chat too. One of the questions was like, you might have answered it too. It was like how many people you do it for. Maybe you can explain it. You actually said if there's a team of 4, you still feel like this is
It's totally useful. Like I think even on weeks. Okay, so two answers to that question. I don't plan the meeting for the number of people that are going to attend the meeting. I plan the meeting for the audience, because not everybody can make all the meetings all the time, which is why we record them. But I think if you're 2 people, you're probably just talking to each other and you don't need to do a formal update. When you get to 3 people, like right now, you primarily talk to Stephen and you primarily talk to me, and occasionally we have a meeting with the 3 of us.
Yeah.
I think this is not as critical because we're all talking to each other all the time. Or like at the beginning, it was you and Andrea and me. Like we were together all the time, and we would do this sort of periodically to sort of summarize what was going on, or if we really wanted to focus a conversation. But I think once it gets to, especially if one of the people's remote, if it's 3 people or 4 people, this is a useful activity. It's also useful because at the end of the year, I do something cool with it, which is I do a year in review, and I pull down all my slide decks from the year, and I flip through them, and I just pull out like all the interesting things, and then I sort of compile the data. Like we did this many events, and we did this many meetings, and we did this many, we spoke at this many conferences, and then I just like pull some photos for highlights to make this year-end review, and we do like a team dinner, and I present the slides of like, we did all this year, because in startup life, like sometimes we're like, we did that this year?
Yeah.
I felt like 5 years ago. And so that's been a really cool tool. So this tool lets you sort of set yourself up for updates. The other time I use it a lot is if we're applying for something.
Yeah.
I go back and I pull content out of these slides all the time.
That's great. I know we have Professor Clark on too. Sam, do you want to add anything about any pro tips on virtual teams, or anything you want to add? We always have Sam say. He's still on mute. He might want to give some.
I was trying to think. You guys are the experts. Joanna, I can't. She holds the best meetings, virtual meetings I've been to.
That's high.
Yeah. So
Sam,
I don't have a lot to add, but I appreciate it.
That's great. Professor Clark comes to our meetings sometimes too, so we do have like key folks, especially if we're collaborating really closely on something. We might have folks that are not necessarily part of our daily operations participate in those meetings. Also advisors.
I like that, advisors. Yeah. We also have Stephen online. Stephen, been going to all those meetings over the years. Any feedback or anything that stands out? Been going to all of our virtual meetings on those Mondays?
Sure. Yeah, I got a question for Joanna. So Joanna, I know that you have a pretty big wide range of experience with project management, and being not only an integral part of team but also managing teams throughout your career. Is there any things since you've started managing, or I guess managing the meetings, or being in the role that you are with Focus, are there things that you've, I guess, experimented with or tried during those team meetings that haven't worked out over the few years you've been with Focus?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I think we talked a little bit about the water cooler chat.
Yeah.
What's interesting is like if it's really not working, people start to complain about it. And so for some people, they were totally happy having the water cooler chat at the beginning of the meeting, but that ended up that we didn't really start our meetings till 7:30 instead of 7. And if somebody had we have somebody who's a student and they have a deadline and they only had 1 hour to spend, and the meeting doesn't even start until a half an hour in, that was frustrating. So having the water cooler chat at the beginning didn't work out. Another thing that I tried was I was doing the metrics every single week, and oh man, that was a lot of work because I was tracking down all these statistics and counting things and doing spreadsheets, and it was taking me like 2 or 3 hours to prepare for this meeting, and it just became so burdensome. And so I actually had a talk with my brother who works at Google, and I said, like, what do you do? And he said, oh, well, we have some key things, like 3 that we touch every week, and then we have a bigger list that we only do on a monthly basis. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant.
That's brilliant. Yeah.
So just like a little small thing like that really helps. And I guess that's another, it's always great to sort of talk to somebody else, to someone else who manages teams or does something similar, and sort of see like, what do you do about this? And do you do this much work? And do you present this kind of information? I'm trying to think what else. I think another thing that we changed over time was at the beginning, we were just kind of sharing like, rah, these are the things that we accomplished very early on. And there wasn't a lot of content early on, but we weren't sharing like the finances, and we weren't sharing like things that like didn't work out as planned. And so we started to share, not negatively, but just share like once a month, we're going to show you like, here's how it's going. And, and like if something doesn't work out and we're really disappointed about it, we're going to share that it didn't work out.
Yeah, like if we applied to something, we have a slide like, okay, we applied for this part for this grant, and we were going to do that stuff. Didn't get it, but we did get some feedback, and this is what we should do. So that actually really being transparent, that part.
So those are my three.
Those are three. Why, if there's any more questions, Toy hit us on Zoom. I did put over here, Joanna, this guy.
Hey, we can have a separate.
We got a separate one. We should have a separate one on that one. That'd be another talk about our little
tool. So we have a bunch of different tools that we use in addition to the meeting to sort of help keep track of things. And you can see there's some over there. They can't see them because the camera's facing.
Yeah. But, we could pull them out next time.
But I think it would be great to talk about. We have a sales dashboard, and we have a sort of a customer discovery board, and we have this Kanban board that's been really useful. And we don't have whiteboards, so we just bought poster board. At the dollar store.
Yeah, I think this one would like pull it.
And I use tape and post-it notes to sort of manage our board. But I think it'd be fun to talk about that.
We should talk about that one. I put it up here just as a little glimpse, little glance. Yeah. I put it up here. But I think we're in really good shape. I see Andreas just joined you. So any other questions offhand? I think you guys good. Kristen, Brianna, we got a good group going on. Any more questions? I think we did pretty good. Stephen, do you want to add anything about Tech School or
sure.
Any other people?
I actually have one quick question for Joanna.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Nice.
So I know at various points with Focus over the last 2-3 years, so we've of course had, part of our team being, physically in one location, having some physical meetings, and then part of, a part of the team being remote. Have you noticed any or had any hurdles you've had to overcome based on some disconnect between, let's say, a physical part of your team versus the remote part of your team, managing kind of both those scenarios at once?
I think having folks remote, one of the things that's been really cool is a lot of times the folks that end up being remote, they were local first. And so we had some in-person relationship, and that has been a thing that really helps with the transition. So Stephen was nearly local. He was in LA for a while. And so we had a pretty long track record before he was, in Oregon instead of in driving distance to us. And then we do these summits. So we actually do try to get everybody together. We fly them all here, and we all get together. I think we were doing it twice a year for a while. Mm-hmm. We haven't had one in a while, and we might not have one for a while, but maybe we'll have to try to do a virtual summit.
For sure, we got virtual summit.
COVID. Where we would actually spend a whole day, and we would just bring everybody together in person. And I actually learned that in another job. I worked for a completely virtual company for about 3 years, and I sort of took some of the practices that they had for keeping, because they would hire people remotely, and like some people you'd never even meet them, and you had to work with them every day. That's good.
Okay, that's great. And you probably got honed in some of your skills working in a pure virtual company.
In a pure virtual company, for sure. Yeah, that's turned out to be really useful for managing a startup. But I think a startup team is a little different because there's not established procedures for things. There's not an established, revenue stream. There's not like a lot of things, you have to create them.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we allocate a portion of our meetings to just brainstorming and trying to today we're not going to do the update. I'm just going to send you the slides and we're going to talk about this thing.
Got it. That's good. That's good. So at least this creates some little structure,
Yeah.
right?
But
Having
I
at least
think,
this one tool.
like nobody has an office to go to. There's not a place that you go to work. But I think if you know that you're going to be asked to give an update during the meeting on Monday, you're going to be thinking about like, what am I accomplishing this week so that I can have something to talk about when I give my update on Monday. And I think that that is I do the same thing in my in-person meetings. I try to have some sort of screen in the room or even a laptop and something that's going to show like status updates. When people see their names written down with like done or not done next to them, it's really motivating. And then you don't have to be mean about it. You're just showing the update, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You're just like somehow people like it affects people like psychologically, and it really they're like, oh man, Joanna's gonna put my thing up there.
Right. That's true. That's a good point. But I think this is really great piece. Me and Steven said we definitely wanted to have this kind of little series on virtual team, different aspects of the tools. I think this is our favorite tool, is having that deck on Monday. That's our favorite one, so I wanted you to start there.
Okay.
But we have some other tools that people have been using, and I think it's even more important now during this climate. So I think that's good. I was at Professor Clark. Sam, do you want any shout outs about Innovation Hub, anything going on?
One thing that we're working on, and hopefully we're going to launch it here in the next couple of weeks, is a Summer Innovation Challenge. So the goal here is just to get some creative minds thinking and solving some real life problems. So I think our focus is going to be on K through 12 schools, and as they return, hopefully this fall, that they're going to have a lot of problems that they need to work out related to COVID-19 restrictions and things like that. And so what we want students to do this summer is maybe help create or innovate or create some type of ideas or products or services that would support K through 12 schools come this fall. So that's a challenge where we hope to get that all out to students and do something good for our community. So that's an announcement I'll make with you guys.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. I was kind of doing these little community things. And Andreas is on that. Andreas is from one of the cohorts from Bunker Labs from LA. Andreas, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Hey, good to hear your voice.
Yeah, yours as well.
It's all good. I should put Andreas on the spot too. Andreas, can you do a little 20-second about pitch about UAV?
Sure. What we're focusing on right now is scaling chemical-free pest applications for agriculture. So we use drones to drop good bugs that prey on the bad bugs in agriculture. We've been doing that in California for about a year, and our development is twofold. One, it's on the drone itself, and two, it's a software platform to enable the logistics to flow a little bit easier.
That was a good one. I like that. I like that piece. I like how you actually went into the kind of pest control part. I know you talked about that. I've been trying to do little shout outs for all the different cohorts, but thanks, Andreas. And we still have to set up a call on the Google one. But any questions about teams, Andreas? I know you have a good team.
I don't know if questions. I mean, we're struggling with it. It's not really a COVID thing as much, but we have multiple time zones. One of my co-founders lives in Spain, so having enough hours a day that overlap is clearly an issue. And doing that, it's almost 24-hour clock. Because by the time I'm going to bed, he's getting up. So managing the handoffs, and then also the expectations that if I'm emailing him at his night and vice versa, like we're not expected to get frustrated if we don't respond right away. Those sorts of things, like they're up, you kind of expect instantaneous responses, even though it's not really work hours. So it's managing expectations is a tough part.
Different time zones. Do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, I have that challenge too. I'm managing a team right now, and we have folks in Spain and in Germany and Italy, and then on the East Coast here, and then on the West Coast here. And so it is really challenging. We find that what we often do is we have either really early in the morning meetings for the California people, or we have reasonable morning meetings for the California people, and then they're evening dinner or later than dinner hours for the Europe folks. And but we try to not do that unless it's like really something important that has to have everybody there. For other things, I think you're just pushing information out. You can do it in a slide deck that you distribute or in a recorded meeting. There is the time sensitivity of the response time, and I think sometimes that just requires like sitting down and planning, sort of what am I going to need over the next week rather than what do I need like right this second, which is hard to do in a startup. I totally understand that.
That's good.
But I think the more you can plan about what, what's coming, even if it's just what's coming in the next 3 days, that gives you that little breather of like, I'm not stuck doing nothing because I really needed that one thing right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's good feedback for Andreas.
Yeah.
But
I know it's hard.
Yeah, that's the. Stuart has one question too. Stuart, I'll read it out. For virtual and long distance meetings, is using a UTC time zone the best way to communicate meeting times?
I tend to use a tool like Zoom that will actually convert the time to the local time for whoever's receiving the invitation.
Got it.
If I'm actually doing it manually, I usually say like, my time zone specific, this is my time, and then whoever is going to be on the meeting, I actually list. Like for the East Coast, that means it's going to be this time.
Wow.
And for,
Okay.
like I list them out.
You list them out.
Yeah, I try to, as much as possible, I try to like make it painless for people to participate. Like,
Nice.
I'm going to make these slides available in PDF, and it's just going to be on Slack, and it's going to be super easy. You're going to get right for the meeting, and all you have to do is click.
Oh, you have to just click it.
You're going to get a link, and you don't have to even dial a number. You just click. Right? like, how can you make it easy for your team to be engaged and to participate? So not thinking about how frustrating it is to participate. They're thinking about, like, that was easy, and they're fully engaged.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. It's like really simple.
So that's more work for me, but it makes it, like, I think it's invisible. And it's work, like Curling said, like some of the work that whoever's managing this, it's invisible. It's not like, it's appreciated by Curling because he doesn't have to do it, right?
Yeah.
And because it makes things go well, but it's like, it's frustrating if you don't do the work, but it is a little bit invisible when you do it.
When you do it.
But that's great.
That's great, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a good work. We didn't want you to feel invisible. You are right on camera. You're solid. You're front and center. Yeah. Thanks, Joanne. I know there's more things we can cover. We'll do some other things, but thanks for doing this time.
And thanks everybody for spending so much time with us.
Yeah, this is fun. It's good. All good questions. Great questions, Stuart. Oh, Kristen said, and Zoom has this one touch for people to use on their phone.
Yeah,
you know what,
so
Kristen,
cool.
You're dead on right. That's the one I use. That one touch iPhone one.
You have to know the code. You're not trying to like look on your phone and like, what's that number again? Oh, I have to flip.
No,
right?
I use that one. I use that.
Yes.
I know if Stephen was on, Stephen was telling me like, okay, make sure everyone likes on our Twitter and Facebook, and even Instagram. We're liking those pieces, and we're gonna be uploading our first half of our season. We have like five sessions. We'll be uploading those in the next couple of weeks, so they'll be on our YouTube. We'll send out a link for that. But Jonah, yours was fun.
All right.
I learned a lot.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys. Take care. Have a good rest of it.
Have a great week. Work on your slides.
Yeah, Brianna. Everybody. That's fun.